Today, I'm so excited and honoured to be talking to health expert and obesity researcher at the University of Sydney, Dr. Nicholas Fuller. And his latest research has actually led to a new book called Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids. So that's very relevant to our life stage right now, raising two children, an 11-year-old and a 20-month-old.
Hello, hello.
Nick, it's a real honour and pleasure to be seeing you again. So, you're a health expert and obesity researcher at the University of Sydney.
Yeah, so to put it into context, day
Yes.
to day, my job is at the University of Sydney, Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. In this facility, we run Australia's largest weight management service. So we're helping people on their weight management journey, but also uh, many complications that come with that excess weight, like metabolic disease, so type 2 diabetes, heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then obviously a part of that is treating adults, but we also are helping children and intervening through the family unit, which is where our discussion comes today.
It does, because your latest research has led you to a new book, Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids. And this is extremely important for our life stage in particular, because we've got an 11-year-old and a 20-month-old.
Very exciting.
It is very exciting, but it's very challenging. The healthy eating is challenging.
Yeah, look, as you will know, as a parent of two yourself, most parents struggle with things like mealtime,
Yeah,
getting their kids to eat nutritious foods, and that
yeah,
topic we're all talking about all the time, food fussiness. It's a real battle. Most kids are pushing back on those healthy foods that, we do want them to eat, the ones that are full of vitamins and minerals, the ones that are full of fiber. Typically, we're talking about the vegetables. These are the ones that, we evolved to basically leave in the environment. These are the ones we evolved to say no to because they were bitter tasting plant foods that were potentially toxic and harmful to our health. Now, you fast forward tens of thousands of years, our genes have not changed. We have the same DNA as our ancestors, but unfortunately, the environment has. And this is why our kids are screaming out for the white beige food diet, also the processed fast food that's on every corner of every block or the aisle, end of every aisle when you go to the checkout in the grocery store. It's a real challenge as a parent. And then the end of the day, mealtime. I mean, that's a real battle, isn't it? You've got shattered kids from school or daycare, depending on the age of the kids, and you've just spent time preparing meals, nutritious meal again, but again, you're getting that result where they're pushing back. You're giving into those food demands. You then end up giving them their favorites, which tends to be that beige food diet, like the nuggets covered in barbecue sauce.
and I think it's led from by parents as well, because if you've had a busy day yourself, it's then so much easier to pop your kid in a high chair, give them something that they're going to eat so you can get on with something else.
Oh, definitely. Look, we're exhausted. We're running around. We've got so much to do in the mundane life. We have very little time for ourselves, very little time for our own children and those that we love most in this world. But look, as harsh as it may seem, we know from our research at the University of Sydney that if you do see mealtime as one of those fill them up and get them out type scenarios,
Yeah.
you are contributing to that next generation of obesity, diabetes, heart disease. Now, these are the very things we want to prevent because many of us as adults or parents are going through that struggle now. We've got this lifelong struggle with weight and health, and we know how much of a challenge it is to regain control. So we've got to set up the next generation so that they don't have that lifelong struggle with weight and health. And the way to do that is by, getting it right in the family home and particularly around food, but also other habits like exercise and sleep health.
Yeah. Do you think it's led by parents? Because like with Spencer especially, we see that he mimics everything now that we're doing. So if daddy's eating corn chips, he'll be eating corn chips type thing.
Oh, absolutely. If mummy or daddy are on the phone, what does Spencer
Oh,
want? The
it's
phone. It is really the monkey see, monkey do. So
yeah.
you have to lead by example because
Mm.
you've got to remember that they are watching your every move. And this is why mealtime can become quite easy and quite a joy and something to look forward to. Because if you continually role model those positive eating behaviors, and what I mean by that is, cooking a family meal and sitting down together at the dining table and them watching you eat, over time they start to embrace that way of life. They try those foods you're presenting, then they start to enjoy them. It just doesn't happen overnight, particularly if you've got older children and you've gone through this sort of lifelong, I guess, evolution of giving into their food demands. It's particularly easy if you've got younger children. Now, you're at a good stage now with your younger one because they're malleable, particularly up to the age of 5 years. You can shape their lifelong food choices, regardless of their age, but it's even easier from, sort of birth to 5 years of age. This is why particular importance needs to be placed on that time of life.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree. And how are screens though impacting this? Because that's another trap that you fall into. The TV is the babysitter.
It is, and we sort of need that babysitter because, again, we're like running around trying to prepare the meal,
Yeah,
clean up the house, just got back from a day of work or parenting, whatever it might be. It's really, really hard.
yeah,
But unfortunately, again, it's something that we have to be addressing. Often as an adult, we are fixated on food. We're on a weight loss journey. What do we want to do? Well, we've often asked, is it an 80% food, 20% exercise split? We really do focus on calorie control, diet. Now, adults, children, the whole family, it's actually an equal split between food, exercise, and sleep health. So that's what our research is showing. You need to focus on sleep health. And it is a 33% split. We're neglecting sleep health, and when it's one of the most contributing factors to long-term healthy weight management. Now, the reason being is because the things we were talking about, those devices, well, they're the last thing that we use before we go to bed. They're the last thing that we're on just before we're trying to fall asleep. Now, unfortunately, these devices are emitting blue light. Blue light suppresses melatonin production in the brain. When you're suppressing melatonin production in the brain, it's telling your brain it's daytime instead of nighttime. It's sunrise instead of go to sleep time. So what happens is your children and you have a hard time getting to sleep and falling to sleep. Now, what that means is the next day, it has a flow-on effect. When we take blood lab samples from our patients in the clinic, after one night of sleep deprivation, we see their ghrelin levels surge. Now, this is your hunger hormone being produced from your stomach, acting on your brain, telling you to go and eat more food. So this level's going up, and you start to feel hungrier after one night of sleep deprivation. So you wake up, your kids are cranky, they're having the tantrum start earlier, you're sleep deprived, and it's from the minute you wake up, there's this flow-on effect throughout the day. So you're hungrier, your children are hungrier, they're yelling out for the processed packaged food, and you're also more likely to make poorer lifestyle choices throughout the rest of the day. You're more likely to go to the vending machine to get that high you're looking for or the corner store, as opposed to preparing food from scratch or reaching for nature's treats. You're also more likely to neglect the exercise or the physical activity because you're tired and lethargic. So not only is your ghrelin levels surging, telling you to eat more after sleep deprivation, but you've also got these poorer lifestyle choices that are happening as a consequence of that sleep deprivation. And that's after just one night. And why is the sleep deprivation happening? Because of that relationship that we have, or the poor relationship that we have with screens. And these are the ones that we have to manage in a different way with our children.
So it's a vicious cycle. That's very interesting. So, and it sounds like if you miss out on sleep, the food is then, so if it's a 33 sort of split between the three, one of them is suppressed being sleep. And so the food will rise, or like that imbalance. It sounds
makes
like,
it very, yeah, you're spot on. It makes it very hard to make healthy food choices and to
yeah,
reach for nature first, which is another part of Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids. It's about retraining your brain back to nature's treats, away from processed and fast foods, because we all battle with stress at the end of the day. We manage that stress by comfort eating. Emotional eating is a big part of why we struggle to maintain a healthy weight.
yeah.
So, look, it does have this huge flow-on effect, and it's why you've got to reevaluate the relationship with screens and can't overestimate or, I guess, underestimate the importance of sleep health because it is so vital and it really does play a huge role. You've got to keep your appetite hormones in their normal day-to-day function. You don't want them going haywire.
It's no one wants to hear it, do they? Like I think I know what we would need to do, and that's probably from about 6 p.m., no screens, all eating together, but it's like, how do you then cope in a modern, no checking emails, no sort of doing anything on your laptop after that?
Yeah, look,
You're sort of
it's
not, yeah.
and this is why I guess the whole point of Healthy Parents, Healthy Kids is to equip you with practical tools so that
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
implement in your home
yeah,
based on the research. So when you come home, for
yeah,
instance, the first practical tip is about leading by example. Now,
yeah.
if you've had a day at work and you come home to kids, you've got to put away that phone. You've got to tuck it away in the drawer, put it on a shelf where it can't be seen, because you cannot then start scrolling and interacting with your device while you're with your children, because they're going to want the device and you're not giving them your full attention. Remember, they absorb everything that you're doing. They're watching your every move. So it means no more TVs in front of the dinner. It's no scrolling on the phone while you're sitting at the dinner table, no scrolling on the phone while you're cooking dinner. It's giving them your full attention and tucking it away. So that's the first thing. You've got to reestablish your relationship with screens, devices, TVs, tablets, phones, whatever it is. Because if you're seen on them, they want them. Now, the next thing is you already brought this up, you do need to reestablish your evening routine. Okay, so another really good tip is to have a routine before bed of a minimum 1 hour, but preferably 2 hours before bed where there's no devices. So no blue light, no screens, and you engage or replace that old hobby, which was screen use, with a new healthier hobby or healthier behavior or healthier habit. So it could be doing homework together. It could be Duplo or Lego. It could be reading a book. It could be going for a walk. It really depends on the age of your children. But you've got to replace that old activity with a new activity. And there's nothing more that children love than your attention. So, work with that and reestablish what that evening routine looks like. They even love doing chores with you, believe it or not. So you really do need to think, okay, what is it that I can do in a gradual way to change the evening routine? And it means no devices in the bedroom as well. Now, that's particularly easy for younger children. If you've got older children, you need to do it in conjunction with them. Develop a plan in conjunction with them so that they feel in control of these actions and plans that you're putting into place. And talk about the reasons why. Talk about appetite hormones. Talk about lifestyle choices. Believe it or not, they're fascinated by this type of education. When you empower them, they're more likely to actually implement that into their day-to-day life. They're always learning and absorbing. So lead by example. Monkey see, monkey do. It's something that you can always keep telling yourself.
I do really notice that they do if I'm off my device and doing things like cooking dinner, Spencer's actually more likely to be helpful. And you're right, they do actually want to do chores with you. They actually do want to do stuff with you. And yeah, and
It's
reading.
sort of, yeah, 100%. It's sort of our default that we go to. We give them the device to
Yeah.
keep them occupied while we do that chore. But go back, a generation and another generation, these devices did not exist.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
We played in a different way. So look, it might mean moving the TV out of the lounge room, disassociating that food environment with screens. And if you don't have a dining table set up, you've got to do it. This is another key step or practical tip. Set up that dining table. And then blowing on from that, remember the real big challenge that a lot of us as parents are struggling with is that food fussiness, getting kids to eat.
Yeah.
Well, coming back to that good point you just make, they do actually love to be involved. They love to do chores, cook with us as well. So get them involved in the cooking. Now, this is not about, time laborious Michelin star recipes. We don't have time for that in the modern day environment. We're all time poor. It's about cooking your family favorites in a delicious and nutritious way, involving your children Even children as young as 2 and 3 can be pulling basil leaves off
Yeah.
a stem. Okay, mixing ingredients together, they love it. And then when they've contributed to that meal, everything from selecting a recipe as part of your meal plan for the week to cooking the meal with you, and then if they're old enough, serving up or setting the dinner table, they're more likely, we know, to eat the meal, more likely to try that meal and actually embrace what's in front of them, particularly if they see you eating it in front of them. And again, I'm just going to highlight, it doesn't happen overnight, okay? Particularly if you've been struggling with this food fussiness and then pushing back on food and you giving in to their food demands for quite some time and you've got older children. If you've got younger children, it's very easy. Well, it's much easier, okay? They're always still going to push back at times. This is their way of exerting some sort of authority over what little control they have in their life. Yeah. So they will say that food is yuck, or I don't like those vegetables, or whatever it is. Again, you are offering one meal for the whole family around the dinner table, away from screens, and we enjoy that time together from a social and cultural perspective. Yeah. We're tapping into our appetite regulation system, allowing signals to be sent from our stomach to our brain to tell us when we're full, and enjoy that meal time together. Because at the moment, it's a real struggle. It's something we dread at the end of the day, and it's something we sort of want to be over and done with. But really, it should be the time that we look forward to, and it can be that by implementing some 6 simple tips and also just doing it gradually over time.
Yeah. And your book could be actually something that you could go over with the kids, because kids do love books and they love recipes, and you've got recipes in the book, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's some of them even have cooking demonstrations with QR codes so they can visually see what that meal's going to look like beyond just a picture. So you've got to involve them. And look, there's no shortage of recipes in the modern day environment with technology at a fingertip and internet. So make the most of that. Embrace that technology for what it is and how it's intertwined in our life, but use it in a way that's going to enhance or improve mealtime. Okay, so selecting recipes, cooking together, serving it up together at the mealtime, at the dinner table, so that mealtime is all about feeling fine.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that slogan, actually. It should be, at the end of the day, sort of a calming, the like you said, the highlight, rather than just trying to get it over and done with.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not, is it?
Yeah, you're right though. Preparation and just getting really organized with the shopping, I guess, on the weekend. You know what to buy, you know what you're going to make, and yeah, it's probably the most important part of your life, and yet the easiest one to sort of just shove aside, I think.
Yeah, and look, another interesting fact on that is it does take time to meal prepare. It does take time to go food shopping. It does take time to work out what recipes we're going to cook for the week. But believe it or not, there's so many benefits of doing that. First, as we've mentioned, we're going to involve your child or children, and you're going to tap into that curiosity and get them involved and excited about the food they're going to eat. But also, you're going to save time throughout the week, because you're not going to be running to the supermarket every day or every couple of days to get ingredients. You're also not going to be going, what am I going to cook tonight? And the other interesting thing is that we know you can save a lot of money on discretionary buys, because every time you go to the supermarket, you end up buying something else. And we've got some data to show that if you're going to the supermarket every couple of days, you end up spending $100 more than compared to one grocery shop at whatever given day it is in the week.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm really interested, because you talk a lot about the evolutionary process, and I think I do see that in Spencer too. And the supermarkets really do buy into that, don't they? Because, we are geared to that high energy, and I do see that in Spencer. So if I give him a plate with vegetables and a more high energy thing, like a chicken nugget or something, he'll instantly just go for the chicken nugget. Like, there's no question, there's no hesitation. Sometimes he's watching Peppa Pig as he reaches for the chicken nugget.
Yeah, look, that's such a common scenario. And you know why he's pushing back on those vegetables? Again, from that evolutionary point of view.
Yeah, they're not.
We learn to leave them in the environment. Kids are always going to push back on a plate of vegetables. They're bitter tasting, they're potentially harmful, toxic. Most of us went through that as adults, children. We do outgrow it, and then, we love those vegetables later on in life. So this is why it's about continually offering the foods too, because we know that a child's not going to accept it at its first occasion. It can take anywhere between 7 to 10 different offerings. So that could be a lot of carrots or broccoli heads on the floor. And the other key thing to mention is that you can be cooking the family favourites with the vegetables. So instead of just the meat pie, it's the meat and vegetable pie. When you're doing that and mixing all those flavours together, you're bringing out the natural sweetness.
Yeah.
And you're working with evolution again, and they're more likely to actually enjoy that meal. So we did evolve to seek out foods that are naturally high in sugar, naturally high in fat. These were the foods that gave us best bang for our buck in a time when food was scarce tens of thousands of years ago. It wasn't available on every corner of every block. We learnt to seek those foods out that gave us that high, that gave us the best calories, and we would store them when, so that we would have enough energy until the next food was available. So nature's treats are those ones that are naturally high in sugar, naturally high in fat, the fruits, so the papaya, the berries, the fats, the nuts and the seeds, all those foods are so good for us. And they're the ones we have to keep offering to our children particularly when you know that they're looking for some sort of high, sugar high, which is what we look for as adults too. And that's what we need to be practicing and telling ourselves when we're looking for a high. Reach for nature first. Surround yourself with them. Have those foods in the food environment. A kid can never eat too much fruit. I don't care what someone says. It's something we've been clearing up in terms of the misconceptions in our clinics now for many years. If a kid wants to eat 6 mandarins, let them eat 6 mandarins. They're more likely to eat the fruit, remember, because they're going to leave the vegetables. And that's kind of good because then they're still getting plenty of fibre, the vitamins and minerals that they may have been missing from the vegetables that they're leaving.
Yeah, I like that. I really, really do like that tip about you can't eat too much fruit. Thank you for that because, I do think that's really important. Spencer loves bananas and we're so clever now. Like we've got the intelligence. We could live for so long now because our ancestors that we are that evolutionary bound. We go for the high energy stuff. We didn't live very long back then, but that's probably because we didn't have the good variety that we do now. Like we've got everything now. We've got the proteins, we've got the all the rainbow colors, we've got everything that we can get. And yet we go for the chips and the lollies that are going to kill us.
Yeah, it's very easy to meet your nutritional requirements in the modern environment. It wasn't back then, and the reason why we did have short lifespans, but you're entirely right. And it's because we're, evolutionary wired to seek out those foods. So when we have the bakery treat or the fast food, it releases feel-good chemicals in the brain, serotonin, dopamine, which is the learning chemical, so that when you walk past the bakery again, you smell and see that food. It triggers the chemical release in the brain. Dopamine's going, go back and reach for more. That food tasted good last time.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're very low in nutrition, low in fibre. They don't fill us up for large amounts of time, and they make us feel bad afterwards. And also, if you continue to have a life that's, filled with these fast and processed foods, eventually something's got to give. That means that ends up being your waistline and your weight, and it goes up over time. So it's about reaching for nature first. You're still allowing processed and fast foods. You never deprive your children of a certain food or a food group or their favourite food, because if you do that, they're only going to want it more and seek it out when you're not looking. So allow them their favourites, but educate them on why they're only the once a week as opposed to the everyday.
And kids are interested. You're right. Kids are really interested in what's going on, and they do want to know. Like Amity, especially at 11, she's always interested. So if you explain, you are right. They are really interested in what they want that knowledge, I think.
Yeah, I think particularly at that age too, like it's a real interesting age because you can educate them now on the principles of nutrition and food and what role it plays in the body. And they can really be involved in cooking at that time. They can be cooking meals and recipes by themselves. So, it really does depend on the age of your kids, but just, I guess, appreciate it. If you've got young kids, get them involved as early as you can because it makes it easier lifelong. If you've got older kids, it's still positive. We know we can reverse a lot of those unhealthy behaviours by setting the right path now, but just not doing it all together. So if we go back to screens, remember, don't just go cold turkey.
Yeah.
You've got to start doing it step by step. So the first step, might be just dinner at the dinner table,
Yeah.
turning off the TV. And then after you've mastered that, then you start working on that screen time before bed. And then, you move on to the next thing, and it could be around food where you're getting them involved in the cooking process, selecting recipes. Once you've mastered that, you move on to the next one, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to just overhaul everything at once because it can become quite overwhelming and also quite scary, to your child or children, because they do want to feel in control. They like a routine. You can't completely overhaul everything in terms of lifestyle all in one go.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the thought of going, yeah, step by step. And you could have a chart perhaps on the wall and you could tick them off one by one, like, sort of goals and
Yeah, definitely. And you can do that with them again.
yeah, yeah, you can do that with home goals.
That's right. That's right.
I really like it. I really like your advice and I really like the research that you're doing. And you talked about setting them on the right path. How important is that then for the rest of their life? Like thinking about Amity and Spencer, say my children at our age, how important is it now to get it right?
Yeah, look, I mentioned briefly at the start, and it's something that is got to be highlighted that
Yeah.
unfortunately, if we don't get it right, you know what ends up happening? And we see this, time and time again, but the next generation ends up having that lifelong struggle with health and weight. They end up being in that position that many of us as adults are in, where 2 in 3 people are struggling with their weight. They're dieting, they're stuck in this yo-yo dieting, they're talking about food in a negative frame. Like it's something that we have to prevent. Okay, we've got to make sure we develop a healthy relationship around food and weight in the family household, and you can do that by focusing on these principles and implementing these practical tips around food, exercise, and sleep. And the other thing that we do highlight is that I guess the only difference between an unhealthy sort of lifestyle and a healthy lifestyle is the environment. Now, in the case of children, the parents are the environment. So there is a lot of onus and responsibility on you to get it right in terms of offering them, the healthy foundations of food and exercise and sleep. And remember that we're not just fixating on food, we're fixating on sleep and exercise. We're doing everything.
I think it's good for the parents too. I think that's the beauty of it. When you're trying to model good behavior, you're also going to be looking after your own health too.
100%.
It's that whole family unit of, like you said in your book, healthy parents, healthy kids. So I think it's good for us too. I think it's good for the parents. I actually think kids are perhaps more good for the parents than
They are. There's so much we can learn from them. And
yeah.
remember how curious they are about everything in
Yeah.
life. These principles of food, exercise, and sleep, well, again, they're very curious about that, particularly food, how it's grown, how it gets to the plate, how you cook a meal, and that appreciation of the food that they're served. So, it is somewhat winding the clock back a few generations and going back to what our grandparents did, sitting around the dinner table, cooking food from scratch, away from technology, walking to and from school if you can, the shops, intertwining activity in our day-to-day life, because we're not giving our kids that opportunity for play as well. This is all about not focusing or fixating on structured activity and saying you need to go and do the 1 hour gym class. This is about saying, would you like to go to the park together? Would you like to go and kick a ball? Playground. And sometimes when they're old enough, they're playing with their own kids. You can then be doing your own exercise at the same time while keeping an eye on them. So this is about, I guess, offering that opportunity of care around food, exercise, sleep, so that you're wiring their brain to want to reach for healthier food, to want to go and exercise, to want to, put down that device of an evening so that they get good sleep health. And then it just becomes part of their day-to-day life. They then grow up in a way that, they don't know any better. It's not a nice to have. Health becomes a priority. They focus on it and they don't then have that issue with weight and health. Again, that what we're seeing with most adults in the modern day environment. It's particularly challenging as parents and the demands that you have on you But you do need to prioritize this, because often we give our child or children all sorts of great things in life. We go and buy them the latest gizmo or, you know, gadget or whatever it might be. But do you know what the most important thing is? Their health and their future. So to do that and
100%.
focus on that, you have to focus on these foundations of a healthy lifestyle.
I love that. I really love that, Nick. I think your work is so important. And yeah, like I don't think we can do this enough. Just thank you so much for it. And just for being so motivating and inspiring. And I think you are so right. It's the most important gift you can give your kids.
No, thank you, Suvi. You're very kind. It's lovely to talk to you. And look, I do hope that this education and information does help parents.
Yeah.
And be rest assured that, like, you're not going through this alone. Everyone's in the same struggle.
Mm.
And you can undo some of those unhealthy behaviors. You just have to keep implementing those positive, healthy behaviors. And you can't keep giving into those demands of your child,
Yeah.
particularly around food
Yeah.
and devices. If they're asking for their favorite food, no, this is the food that we've cooked.
Yeah.
This is the family meal, the one meal for all.
Yeah.
And they will eat according to their needs. They're extremely good at regulating their appetite. They
Yeah.
will eat enormous amounts at some meals and eat like a sparrow at the next. So if they're pushing back and telling you they're not hungry, do not worry, do not be concerned. Do not force or bribe them to eat. It means they've had enough calories across the course of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll probably make up for it at the next meal by eating a lot more. And that also goes hand in hand with what happens if your child's weight is tracking above the normal healthy weight range. Again, don't worry, particularly if you have a young child, less than 2 years of age. We all grow and develop at different rates, and we all hit milestones at different times. Now, it's quite common for a child to be tracking in that sort of 85th to 95th percentile or higher. And when they start crawling and walking, they normalize and their weight comes back down to a normal, healthy weight range. And we all fall within different ranges on that healthy spectrum. So again, don't worry too much about where they are. As long as you're implementing these healthy principles that we're talking about, particularly from the age of 2, if your child's weight is still high, you need to reevaluate these healthy habits and reevaluate your relationship around food, exercise, and sleep in the family home.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nick. And where can we buy
Thanks, Suvi.
Where can we buy this book?
Look, I can give you probably the best thing to do is link to the Penguin site, because then they can go to any retailer that they want to go to.
Excellent. We sure will. And just thank you for your work. From parents everywhere who are struggling with this issue, thank you for doing the research, doing the hard yards, and trying to share these genuinely valuable tips with us, because it will undoubtedly help. It will undoubtedly.
No, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm
very
looking
much.
forward to going through the book with my kids.